My name is Karina, and I want to tell you thank you for your share your story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I interview people who have experience about cancer from all over the world, and I'm sure that your story can be helpful to someone. Especially who's from your country. So where are you from?
I grew up in Ohio in the United States and just recently moved to Florida. So even more reason to be aware of my surroundings and protecting myself. So this has definitely been an important mission to be sun safe in this climate. So it's been interesting.
Yes, and how is weather today? I saw in your stories that there was a thunderstorm yesterday.
That was something. It probably only lasted, I'm going to say 20, 25 minutes, but
Oh,
the
really?
intensity, and that was inland water. That was in a protected area that it churned up that much. So that was pretty exciting. We'll say
Oh,
that.
really? Does this happen often?
Too often, but we are getting into the seasons changing, and so the temperatures are getting warmer, and it's affecting, between the air temperature and the water temperature. I'm sure that has a lot to do with the atmosphere, and so it'll get a little bit stormy, and then it gets nice, and then we get into hurricane season. So
I know about your love for sales, and you're a saleswoman, and I think it's so romantic.
it is, and it's also very there's also a whole nother side to it of boat maintenance and just how important it is to stay safe with what you're doing, knowing, your boat, knowing how to work the boat and keep everybody else safe on it as well. So
It is your soul.
definitely a spiritual thing, to be in control and harnessing the power of nature to move a vessel that weighs a lot, and just by the wind. That's truly spiritual connection. But you also have the other side of it that you can't control, and you have to adjust how you do things to get through it, which is very similar to life. There are things that you have control over, and then there are things you don't, and it's how you react to them that gets your result. So
Yes. So, when did the storm and thunder came in your life, and did you find out about your diagnosis?
oh, that yes, that was actually, it was boating related. So there was a family gathering at the holidays, and I had, there's always something to bump into on a boat because things are laid out a specific way and you're moving around sometimes quickly. And I had bumped a spot on my leg. I had a mole on my leg that I had bumped walking around, and had a Band-Aid on it. And I was talking to my mom, who's a retired nurse, and was telling her I bumped it. And she said, go get it checked out. Just make sure everything's okay. And so that was in August of 2017. And I wasn't sure what to expect. Like anybody, I was nervous to go to the appointment. But when I got into the room and saw the walls plastered with all sorts of posters about melanoma, that's when I got that sick feeling that that this could be bad. So when they did that biopsy, and I realized what they had just done, I think that's the moment I knew I had something ahead of me that I was going to have to deal with. I know that going back to work and explaining to people that I worked with what had happened, everybody kind of like was just like, you're fine, you're fine. They do this stuff all the time. They just cut it off, and you go on your way. And I didn't have that same feeling. So while I was at work a couple of days later, I got that horrible phone call that I had cancer, and it was malignant melanoma. Um, you don't know how to process that information because it like any other cancer. I think you have a preconceived notion of what it's about what treatments might be. You've seen enough about it, but melanoma, you don't really have that information to base
Yes.
anything on.
Yes.
And I think you go through that thought process of, I'm going to die, my life is over. You see your life flash before you. You sit there and think about all the things you never did, about the people that you're not going to see anymore. There's just a whole thing that happens when you get that diagnosis. And, very quickly after getting that phone call, I went in for surgery. I had a wide excision done on the side of my leg. I had lymph nodes taken out of my groin, and um, and then just a lot of healing, and then went right into a year of immunotherapy to treat it. And it ended up being a stage 3 melanoma. So
Have you been concerned about moles before you go to visit a doctor before?
not really, not really. And there really wasn't a whole lot in family history that would warrant, maybe we should all be taking a notice of things and paying attention. So there really wasn't any clue of this being a concern. And yeah, and so I would say, anybody that's hearing this that has been through anything like this or feels like there's potentially something to be aware of, absolutely get it checked out sooner rather than later, because this was something that was small on the side of my leg, but had already traveled to lymph nodes. And after that whole year of immunotherapy and getting the all clear, within 6 weeks, I found a lump, and they said it came back confirmed after a biopsy, it was melanoma again. So I had to go through another surgery and another whole year of immunotherapy. So it's tricky, and my experience isn't like everybody else's experience, and I understand that. But you never know what you're going to be dealt with. And again, if I had known sooner, things could have been different, but who knows? When I started the first round of immunotherapy, it was a drug that was just approved by the FDA, and it was this groundbreaking treatment. And so I thought I was all good after that first round. And when it came back, that was a whole nother layer of sobering reality, because what I thought I already taken care of wasn't done yet. And so that puts another layer of fear and worry and anxiety in your world, because you have no idea what you're up against. If it's that strong to outdo what you just did, then what are you in for? So
Did you use SPF cream before you know that sun is aggressive near the
right.
water?
Yeah, being a boater and doing all that kind of stuff, there was sunscreen used it, but as you can tell, I'm fair skinned, and my hair wasn't always this light. This is a side effect of the medication that I've had. But yeah, there's always, because of being on the water, you always did put the sunscreen on. And I know growing up, being at the pool or going to the beach, sometimes you did get sunburned. And this is long before this whole focus of sun protection was really a thing. So it wasn't like there was a concerted effort to totally lay out in the sun and get the super tan all the time or go to tanning beds, anything like that. And growing up in a northern climate, you have summer for 4 or 5 months of, being able to be outside and actually being in the sun. So it's even just a third of the year or so is outdoors. So even that section of time, there was enough exposure that accumulated and created this whole situation. So
What do you want to get across to people with your podcast?
there's hope. To empower people, the support system. I know when I went through my diagnosis, I didn't understand what was out there, what was available. And I think a lot of people feel very isolated and alone when going through these types of things. I wanted to take care of it myself. I didn't want to burden other people with this. And that was hard for me. Even though I got through it, it probably could have been done easier or better. And so the podcast is, like I said, highlighting people who have had this adversity in their lives, who have gone through these challenges, who know firsthand what to expect, and to share their story of what it was they went through. It's really just to empower people, I think, is the biggest thing, to show them that there is hope. And as much as I've been through, I've still figured out how to live the life I wanted. It comes at a price. There is compromise and things that have had to happen to get to this point. But I also realized that time is of essence, and life is very fragile, and you need to do those things now. What used to be the mindset of in 5 years I'm going to, or 10 years I'm going to, became what am I going to do now? Because I have no guarantees, and nobody does. But I think when you're faced with a cancer diagnosis, it's more prevalent, it's more in your face on a daily basis how fast things can change. So
Yes, absolutely. Before preparing the interview, I listened some episodes in your podcast. Yes, it's really interesting, and interesting speakers.
mhm.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think the guests, I have either the guests that have been through it who are survivors, but then I also have people who have made a profession to support other people. So you're getting both sides of the story. You're getting the person that's actually gone through it, but then you're getting someone who deals with mindset and how to go through traumatic events, because this is very traumatizing when you go through a cancer diagnosis. There is a lot of psychology that goes behind the physical side of a cancer diagnosis. And so having whatever resources you can collect and whatever I can present to other people to give them at least a starting point to understand better what would work best for them, that's the whole goal. So
is there a social advertising or announcement in your city about the need to protect yourself from the sun, or any social program maybe?
I am being new here, and this being a whole new way of life. I haven't seen anything specific, but I also know in this community that we're in, people are very aware. So I don't see anything that's specifically targeted to warn people of the importance of sun protection, but I do see people protecting themselves, especially people who understand boating and understand the exposure that they do get. Um, there are some, I'm sure, diehard people that will never use sunscreen and will never have sun cancer or skin cancer. But I do know that there is an effort for people to wear hats and the protective clothing. And I don't think it's not all what you see on YouTube of the bikinis and everybody just out in the sun exposing themselves out in the middle of the water. It's not all that. There are people that do it, but I'm probably the oddball, and with what I do, I'm covered head to toe, especially if we're out in the middle of the water, just to make sure that I don't get any more damage done. I don't encourage any more things going wrong with my body. I would hope that after 2 years of immunotherapy that I've figured out something to protect myself, but I don't take it for granted. I still do what I can with UPF clothing and the sunscreen and hats, things like that. So
what advice can you give people who will watch our interview, how to protect yourself from skin cancer?
as far as being proactive, I would say make sure you get your skin checked. And I know with what we're talking about with NOTA and the way that works to make you aware of what is on your body and ways to track what is going on with those spots on your body, and helping you understand what is going on. And if there's a concern, notifying you to follow up with your dermatologist. I think that's the key. Is it's not an easy button that it takes care of everything for you. It is a tool to help protect you from further things being of issue. So if you have something that's suspicious and you have the NOTA, that you can actually follow that along. But for me, what it is a tool to work with your dermatologist. It is not the be all end all so much as the tool to make your dermatologist aware that if you find something, and it's a self-protection type of thing to make you stay on top of things, to make you more proactive. And I do appreciate what that does. And I used it the other day and started mapping some more moles just to follow this along, to understand how it works and how I can work that into my whole regimen of keeping myself safe. So yes, absolutely, something that is a definite important tool that I have, along with, like we were talking about, the sun protective clothing and keeping it safe in the sun with, sunscreen, hats, and sunglasses. This is another way to stay on top of things.
I think you're a hero that found inside yourself a strength to not only go through this challenge, but to start a way to support other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good work.
Well, thank you. And it's important. And I think it's that passion and the mission that perpetuates more of it. Um, it's hard sometimes when you're talking to other people about their experiences, because it does bring a lot of memories back for me. I've been through a lot in my life, but this most recent time of dealing with cancer really put things in perspective for me. And I think it's important for people to realize they're not alone in anything that they do. It doesn't matter what your situation is. There's always somebody there to help you, to guide you, to support you, to empower you, to understand what you can do to help yourself and where you can go to get help if it's beyond you helping yourself, because we are a community of people who need that support. And I think the days of being so cutthroat and being in so much competition are fading. I really see a community building in a lot of these different groups, with the skin cancer and the melanoma on social media, and that connection that people have, that camaraderie they have because they understand each other. That's the important thing. And you hold each other up when things are going great, and then something goes on that happens with a bad test result, or another diagnosis. You at least have somebody to fall back on who's been through it. So yeah.
I wish you health, and there is no storm and thunder in your life.
Well, thank you, Karina. I appreciate you having me here today. And like I said, the main thing is just keep yourself safe, be aware, be proactive, and get your skin checked. Regardless of how scared you are, you will be saving your life.